Errant teachers are being dealt with by education authorities. The Education Labour Relations Council has fired 30 after finding them guilty of alleged sexual misconduct since April. Earlier this year, another professional teachers body, the South African Council for Educators, struck 31 teachers off its register indefinitely. 22 were for sexual offences. Provincial education departments have also dismissed over 200 teachers between April 2022 and March 2023, we understand, for misconduct. Bernice Loxton is the Education Labour Relations Council media officer and joins us now. Bernice, good evening to you and welcome. Many families tonight who have been affected by this will hopefully be feeling, some sense of progress or even justice. Share with us the process of finding them guilty.
Good evening to you, Iman, and to the viewers as well. The process, the ELRC process that is followed for sexual misconduct cases is where a learner reports a case either to a teacher or to a parent, and the school then reports this to the Department of Basic Education. The department refers the matter to the ELRC for disciplinary action, and we then appoint an independent commissioner to arbitrate on the matter where a teacher is found guilty. And based on the evidence, if the teacher is found guilty of sexual misconduct, they are dismissed with immediate effect. And apart from the dismissal, they are struck off the roll in terms of the processes of the South African Council for Educators. Their names are also submitted to the Department of Social Development for inclusion in the National Register for Sex Offenders.
I think what you described so far sounds to me like these are civil proceedings or even disciplinary proceedings. Have these individuals been criminally charged?
Of the 30 cases that we received, we don't have a definite number of the teachers that were criminally charged. However, because our process begins when it is referred by the department, but the party that initiates the process, whether it's the teacher or the school or a parent that reports it, at that point, the SABC has to be involved. So they have to then refer the matter to the South African Police Service.
So let me just understand it correctly, Bernice, and then you can clarify if I've got it wrong. It seems as if they're almost two parallel processes. This emanates from a complaint via a learner or a parent, and that's managed in the school with the association of the SAPS because that is mandatory. So whatever flows from there is then left to the criminal justice system. But from a departmental or institutional perspective, you have a separate responsibility and duty then to also follow a process of investigation, make a finding, and then have a recommendation around deregistration and then inclusion if they're found guilty into the National Registry.
That is correct. You captured it correctly.
So the names have been sent to the Department of Social Development so that they can be included in this National Child Protection Register. What happens from there? Is there any way they can find themselves back in front of children? I guess that would be, the biggest concern of parents and caregivers, teachers, other teachers.
It is very unlikely for a teacher to re-enter the system once they have been registered in the register for sex offenders, because the department has a legal obligation to vet every teacher before appointment. So if they are found to be in the register, they cannot be appointed.
How well coordinated is that register? When you talk about the different institutions that are responsible for managing the conduct of teachers in schools across the country, and there are hundreds, to what happens within the criminal justice system and the outcomes of that, it sounds like there is room for this not to be, not to be catalogued both, in time and as extensively as it should be. What would you say to that?
I believe that it is well managed through the Department of Social Development. When we look at the number of cases over the past 3 years, for instance, we have seen that there has been a significant decline in cases. For instance, to date we have 69 cases were referred to us.
Yeah.
And the previous year it was 82 cases, and in 2021 it was 94 cases that were referred to. So there is a noticeable decline, and to us it's an indication that there are steps being followed, that these teachers are not re-entering the system.
Or alternatively, Bernice, it could also be that maybe some of these cases aren't getting to the platform where they can be either arbitrated or where charges can be instituted. I'm just putting that as an aside. I think the biggest thing that I would love for us to conclude on is it's just horrendous how, how a lot of these teachers, the ones who have been identified and others who may yet still be identified, are able to take such advantage of children. This is supposed to be a safe space for learners. What are some of the interventions that have been made to prevent this from happening? And maybe just a comment from your organization on just how terrible it is that we're talking about sexual misconduct, given that these are adults and children.
Yes, it is. I do agree with you that it is horrific. If the teacher has to take on the role of parent while the child is at school, and these acts are just violating their trust that's bestowed upon them. We do recognize that there's still more that has to be done to ensure that the message gets out to learners and to society as a whole of how we can curb this societal issue, because I do believe that it stems from the broader societal ills that we deal with in terms of gender-based violence that finds expression in the school environment. So we plan to intensify our advocacy programs going forward, in collaboration with the Department of Education and STB formations, and make this an ongoing program to ensure that learners are aware of their rights as enshrined in the Constitution, and that parents are also aware of what steps they can take if they suspect any form of abuse.
And I guess that's probably the best note to end on, Bernice, is that there is a system, it can work, and parents should, in those awful situations where this has been the experience of their guardian, the person, the child that they're looking after, or indeed their own children, that there can be recourse and they should come forward. So thank you very much for sharing the details on this with us tonight. We appreciate your time. Bernice Loxton is the Education Labour Relations Council Media Officer.